You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kelvin, and with me today is a very special guest host. It's Davey from Trexperts Quiz and the Bargain Bin Gamer. Hi, Davey.
Well, good evening and good morning and whatever time of the day it is, listeners. Hey, Kelvin. Good to be back.
Hello, my love. Not an American time zone or accent to be found today. It's the Brits and the Aussies with our 9-hour gappy, timey-wimey between you. So Monday morning for me, Monday evening for you. Yeah, what a weird one.
Oh, I love it. Normally I'm doing this on a Sunday morning hungover. So this is like a dream come true.
Well, speaking of hangovers, Davey and I are presenting today because we're the only two BQN hosts who are not over at STLV this weekend. So shout out to everyone nursing a hangover who's had a very interesting 4 days. Have you seen much of it on the socials, Davey?
Yeah, it looks like they had a terrible time. I'm not even jealous, not the slightest bit.
Well, I can't claim it's been all hardship for me. I'm just back from a 10-day holiday over to Barcelona in Spain. So, I've got the Monday morning itis today.
I know, I didn't recognize you with your shirt on, to be honest. So, referring to your social media posts of late.
I know. I'm back in Starfleet uniform now after putting the leather harness back into the wardrobe for a few months' time. For a couple of weeks, anyway. It's Manchester Pride in 2 weeks, so it'll be more shirtless endeavours then, I'm sure.
Dear, you Europeans in your middle of the year summertime, whilst those of us in the southern hemisphere are freezing our little tuchuses off.
What's new with you then, Davey? What have you been up to?
Look, I have been up to all kinds of crazy hijinks. I mean, I am incredibly busy with my day job. It's winter. We've gone into ground, although I've had a couple of life milestones. My partner, Anthony, who was with me when I stayed at your house a few months ago, has moved in after 2 years together, which is really exciting. And I've just enrolled to do an undergraduate course in creative writing as a bit of a personal pursuit to see how I go. I've never been to university before, so this should be interesting.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know you had an interest in creative writing. When you put a little message out there, I told James, my partner, he's a senior lecturer in creative writing here at Manchester Metropolitan University. So he's on standby for personal tuition should you need him.
I can't wait for him to critique my work. I'm going to send him all my documents and I want lots of markup and comments back.
We'll make a change from him critiquing my every movement. I'll be happy to hand him over.
And how have you been apart from gallivanting through Spain?
I've been good. I'm actually petrified for this recording that I'm not just going to start coughing uncontrollably because I've been in lots of nightclubs with dry ice machines and on the continent where people don't stop smoking. So I'm feeling particularly chesty today. So when you come back off vacation and you just feel a little bit malaise, shall we call it, after 10 days on the sesh. Back to work, but no, not too much heavy work for me today. Thought I'd skive an hour or two and do this recording with you.
The beauty of hybrid working. And can I just say, the relentless smoking was one of the things I liked least about Europe. Oh my God. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I think we did that the other week when we were looking at Little Green Men, when Quark says they buy it. If they buy poison, they'll buy anything.
Yes. Why can't they just vape like normal people do these days? But anyway.
Like the cool kids.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, before we get on to today's topic, Davey, you and I have the luxury to reflect on this week's Strange New Worlds. So let's go over to the escape pod.
This is the bridge. All hands to emergency escape pods.
Escape pod. So this section of the episode is when we review the most recent Star Trek that has been on TV this week. And last week we had the very special and much awaited Strange New Worlds musical episode, Subspace Rhapsody. So I'm dying to hear your thoughts on this, Dave, because I know you're a little bit of a thespian and you've been known to belt out a tune. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, whether people want me to belt out that tune or not. Look, controversially, I did not immediately love it. There were people all over my social media who were like gushing over it. And I think it's because the songs were not as catchy as I wanted them to be. I wanted some real earworms, like the Buffy musical, Once More with Feeling, give me something to sing about, Walk Through the Fire, Bunnies, It Might Be Bunnies. It wasn't until I started listening to the songs again on Spotify or whatever audio platform I choose to listen to music on, and that I started to sort of grow a little bit more of an appreciation for them. That being said, I thought the singing was all beautifully done. I couldn't tell if any of them were being auto-tuned or faking their voices, and you could tell the cast was just having a fabulous time, and that made it fun to watch. Really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, it must have been so good for them because they so many of them have this musical theatre background, and Christina Chong, she's a full recording artist with a EP out at the moment. Twin Flames is a fantastic single. I'm constantly listening to it. So I enjoyed it for them. And I even enjoyed the story aspect. I guess my only I wouldn't go as far as maybe what you said. I just don't think there was too much variety in the tracks themselves. They were all a little samey. So apart from the Klingon K-pop, that was probably the most different one. But yeah, they were very samey. However, that being said, it is, I'd say, maybe my third favorite episode of the season after the crossover with Lower Decks and Tomorrow, which I know is not your favorite, but we'll gloss over that. But I loved it.
Yeah, look, I've enjoyed it more on a rewatch. There was just, I don't know, maybe I just have high expectations of a musical episode of a well-trodden franchise, and I did think though that, and again, I'm going to go back to my favorite musical episode of all time from Buffy. I almost felt like the plot was kind of similar in the fact that some weird anomaly made them all sing, and the singing made them release their deepest inner feelings in front of each other and made them say all the things that they wouldn't normally say, which is exactly what happened in Buffy. But if it works, it works. And you talked about big numbers and variety in the numbers. I kind of felt the same. The only two that kind of really stood out as different for me was the finale and Jessica Bush's song, the Nurse Chapel's song, I'm Ready.
Yeah.
That kind of had there was some dancing and all that kind of stuff in it. But yeah, very samey the rest of it, I agree.
I'm Ready was my favorite song, and I think you're right. It's because it had that ensemble piece and the choreography, and it was in, I nearly said 10 forward then, in the mess hall, whatever that amazing bar is that they have on the Enterprise. And there was a lot of Sam Kirk in it as well, which is always a delight. So yeah, I really enjoyed that song.
Lots of Sam Kirk and lots of Jim Kirk, because he's clearly already after the captaincy of that ship, because he just rocks up whenever the hell he feels like it.
There's a fantastic meme going around at the moment where someone's mocked up an old book cover, and it's Pike and Kirk, and it's Pike. Why are you always on my ship?
I've seen it. I've seen it. It's fabulous, and yes, it got a reshare quite a few times amongst all my various different Star Trek group chats.
I had a really funny moment when I was watching this episode because while I've been on holiday in Spain, I always take my little HDMI cable with me so I can watch Star Trek when it all gets a little bit too much for me. So they knew there was a new episode on. And out of the 8 of us in the apartment, 4 people will watch Star Trek and the other 4 are kind of eye rollers. But they kept walking into the living room and hearing all these music, and they were really confused, saying, I thought you were watching Star Trek. And I was like, this is Star Trek. Thank you.
I had the same experience with Anthony. So on a Thursday evening now, he now retreats to watch whatever in the bedroom and will occasionally pop his head out. And I do watch it quite loud. And so he came tiptoeing out at one point and just goes, what are you watching? What is all that singing? And he then proceeded to troll me and all my friends about how, yourself included, about how amateur and horrible he thought the singing was. I mean, he doesn't have anything to base that off. He's literally just trying to get a reaction out of us, which I had to warn you of in a separate chat to say, don't bite. He's literally trying to make you bite.
Yeah, he didn't know the difference between Laan and Ortegas, and that's what he was coming for me for. So I just quietly moved away from that conversation before I went for him.
Yeah, it was confusing when he turned to me and said, Kelvin's talking about someone called Lan. Who's Lan?
Aside from all of the kind of the musicality in this episode, it did set up quite a lot of plot points with the Christine Chapel moving away from her little sabbatical with Dr. Roger Corby. So what are you thinking about all of that dropped in to link it to the original series and what a little girl's made of?
That was good, and you know, I'm glad that the whole Spock Chapel kind of thing wasn't really kind of too intense or too drawn out. It was kind of a bit of a flash in the pan, which I'm totally fine with. The only thing is, I love Chapel. I hope this doesn't mean that she's going to disappear for a little bit or anything like that when she goes to do the fellowship. That would be a genuine tragedy because, you know, after we lost Hammer in the first season, I'm like, no more. This is not Game of Thrones or Discovery. These characters don't need to die.
Yeah, well, I guess the only saving grace is we know that at least half of the characters on Strange New World can't die because they're very much needed in the future. I was thinking the same. Jess Bush is a favourite on Strange New Worlds for me, and I'm hoping the kind of the Fellowship is a mid-season kind of or between season activity, and she comes back, you know, with maybe flashing an engagement ring or something in season 3, episode 1. Who knows?
Yeah, look, it's the beautiful thing about episodic television, I guess, is that, you know, the reset button is very easily hit.
Right, okay, shall we move on to today's subject then? So we are continuing our Man versus Machine with part 5. And today we're going to be looking at TNG The Nth Degree from season 4, a Reg Barclay episode. So previously covered, we've done the original series Ultimate Computer, Enterprise Dead Stop, and Lower Decks Where Pleasant Fountains Lie, as well as Discovery's Project Daedalus. So, Davey, can you give us maybe a little bit of a synopsis? What happens in The Nth Degree?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. It's actually one I probably skipped a lot in the past, so revisiting it and actually paying attention to it for once was quite interesting. But basically what happens is they visit the Argus Array, a big subspace telescope, whatever that is, and it's broken down, and they find that there's a very odd-looking alien probe nearby. Barclay, who's recently been suffering from some confidence issues, and after overcoming some of his fears by acting quite poorly in a play with Beverly Crusher, gets taken by Geordi on a little trip to scan the probe, which flashes a bright light and, surprise, surprise, does something funny to Barclay, because when can you ever trust a probe with a bright flashing light? Look, long story short, that bright flashing light turns Barclay into a bit of a superhuman, a bit of a genius, who winds up integrating himself with the ship, flinging that said ship all the way across the galaxy to meet an alien race that basically use this as their form of first contact. They don't like to go out into the galaxy, they like to bring people to them. Barclay returns to normal and gets to go on a date in the Arboretum with Troy. The end.
Mark is famous for his doing pretty much scene by scene recaps when we ask him for a little synopsis. So you almost came close, but you definitely sped it up. Walking the Arboretum, the end. Yeah, that kind of was it. As again, no lasting consequences.
It's like I said, it's not my favorite episode, so I just had to rip the Band-Aid off.
How come you usually skip this episode? Why do you not like it? Is it Barclay himself, or is it the subject matter? Why is it a skipper?
Yeah, I've never cared for Barclay too much. I didn't even really care for his appearances in Voyager. I was like, I don't know what it is. This is one of those episodes, and this is a funny run. So when I used to have to watch TNG as a kid, so it was the series I was raised on, but it used to be on really late at night on Australian TV. So my mum used to have to stay up and tape it on VHS for me. This was one of those episodes where she was pressing pause to cut out the ad breaks and forgot to basically re-record once the ad break finished. And so for years and years, I had never seen like a big chunk of the episode. And for some reason, even then when I finally saw it, I was like, I've always wanted to see the full episode. Found it on a VHS cassette somewhere. I was really underwhelmed for some reason. I mean, it's not, let me wrong, it's not terrible. It's just it's never stood out to me. Maybe it's just because it wasn't one of those ones that I got to watch on repeat so much as a child, because my mum doesn't know how to use a pause button on a VCR. So
I love that you remember that. I had a very similar experience with Voyager's Warhead. It was recording from Sky TV, and for some reason, the transmission just transmitted a black screen. So I listened to the episode as almost like an audio documentary. And it wasn't until a couple of years later, till they all came out on DVD, that I actually got to see it. And I remember thinking the same of, this isn't... But they stand out in your memory, these kind of episodes like that. So, yeah, so not a Barclay fan. That's interesting. Is it because of the way Dwight Schultz acts, or is it more the mannerisms and the character of Barclay? Why didn't you warm to Starfleet's favourite buffoon?
Starfleet's favourite buffoon, not mine. No, I can't quite put a reason to it. Sometimes some characters and some people just don't land for you, and Barclay is just that character for me. And this could be controversial. Maybe I don't see, especially his entry point into the Enterprise, I don't see him being the caliber of officer who should have been allowed to serve on the flagship, which is a very horrible thing to say. But and I just made that up on the spot. That's not what I really think, listeners. I'm a very nice person who believes in equal opportunity for all. But no, he's never resonated with me, Kelvin. I don't know why.
It's interesting you say that, because I want to kind of move on to this kind of concept of confidence issues. And I know this is Barclay's second episode, and it's infamously really fleshed out in Hollow Pursuits the season earlier. But you're right, there's something about Barclay that at the time, and clearly even now, he doesn't seem to measure up to our heroes, who are our main cast, and even some of the secondary cast as well. So, first of all, how the hell did he get to where he was, akin to a point that you've said? But him kind of becoming this kind of personality on the show that continues all throughout the run and again into Voyager as well, and much loved by a lot of the fan base, and a very famous actor from the A-Team too. So it's really interesting that you used to get that old Gene Roddenberry, everybody's perfect, there's no conflict, everyone gets on. And Barclay was probably the first example of someone who didn't fit in with the crew. And we've seen lots of other examples since. Hell, half of Deep Space Nine didn't get on with each other. So I wonder if that was one of the reasons, that it was just so different and he really stood out from everybody else.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, to say I didn't like him because it makes me sound awful still, so I'm trying to dig myself out of this grave. Yeah, look, you are right. Like, he is definitely, in that context, the first time he's introduced is quite sort of jarring in that way, because you are used to everyone getting along. Everyone on the Enterprise is top of their game. And then here's someone who is undeniably brilliant, but is lacking the self-confidence for that brilliance to be fully realized. And I think the people around him, they do kind of see the brilliance in him, despite the fact that he does irritate them, especially in Hollow Pursuits. There is a belief. And that's probably a testament to the Enterprise crew, is that even though he is different, even though he makes mistakes, he gets the chance to improve and do better, to become the Barclay that we see, who brings Voyager home and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, good point. The whole confidence issues with Barclay here, we see as a direct continuation. Somehow, somebody has persuaded him to take up amateur dramatics, and here he is doing a very lousy job of doing Bergerac. But it just got me thinking that they've really thrown him in the deep end. It is, for someone who is too shy to even function and lives on the holodeck, to then put themselves out there in an acting role with a live audience, that is going from 0 to 10. So I mean, I don't know how Troy convinced him to do that. She must have, tipped a wink at him or something, offered him a nice walk in the Arboretum.
Well, apparently that's how you get a man to do anything on the Enterprise. Yeah, look, the theater, I'd included this later as one of my regenerations, but I'm like, doing like a theater in front of all your co-workers, I'm like, I don't even let any of mine follow me on social media. We don't need those walls broken down. It's fine.
Absolutely not with the state of your social media, anyway.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Well, it got me thinking as well. In the past, have you ever had any kind of confidence issues of, like, when you were younger or becoming a young adult, moving in, or in the world of work? Let's face it, this is a workplace problem for Barclay. So, was there any empathy there on your part to this poor man in the long shadow of Geordie LaForge?
Absolutely, I have experienced confidence issues, massively so early on in my career, and even still today, I am riddled with imposter syndrome all the time, which is, confidence issues, absolutely bursting at the seams when it comes to that. But I can remember, like, really early on in my career, I was almost a little Barclay-esque. I was well liked in the workplace. I'd reached a very sort of certain comfortable lower to middle management kind of level in IT and cybersecurity. And I can remember being terrified of going any further. So anytime I was put in a sort of situation where I had to present to people, or I had to be in a room with a bunch of important people as part of, just a normal meeting or an incident review or something along those lines, because it was IT, there was always those kind of, very confrontational kind of meetings. I would absolutely fall to pieces, and I would find any excuse I could not to go. And, it's interesting. Like, I think I often wonder, how did I actually get over that? And when I reflect on it, and this goes back to something I was saying before, at the time, I had a manager, or there was a director in my part of the business that I worked in, who just kind of believed in me and was very gentle in his approach with how he put me into different situations, how he coached me through them. He saw something. He's like, you're capable of this, and gently encouraged me to the point where I was able to kind of get through it and overcome it. And it did not happen overnight, and it still creeps back at times. I'd be amazed to find anyone who has not gone through their life, kind of riddled with confidence issues. And if they say they haven't, then they're lying. Speaking of, have you ever had any confidence issues, Kelvin?
Yeah, and a lot of them come from youth. So in my kind of current role, and the role I've done maybe for 10, 15 years, I'm, struggling to think of specific examples. But I remember when I first moved to Manchester from my little small town, and I actually just got a job in a gay bar on Canal Street in Manchester's gay village. And you can imagine the kind of the confidence of the guys who'd worked there for years, that I was walking into that environment. And here I was, a little twink from the back of beyond, not really knowing any gay friends at that point. And I used to go back to my student kind of dorm at the end of the day and say to my newly found friends, they're like, oh my God, they're all just going to eat me alive. I can't work there. All the customers are divas, and the staff are all really loud, and I'm just quaking in the corner. And a couple of weeks later, I found I fitted in quite well after having a few nights out and making kind of connections. So I guess the confidence for me came from a little bit like an imposter syndrome, identity issue of, do I belong in this workplace with these people? Am I one of them? Kind of in more ways than one. And yeah, I fitted in quite well. And once I accepted my environment, I thrived in it. So that's kind of my confidence story of that kind of fish out of water aspect.
You were the new twink on the block.
Absolutely, yeah. I wish I was now. Now I'm the old has-been.
Oh, it's been a long time for all of us, Dal, don't worry.
No, I know. I've not done too bad. I've just done 10 days in Barcelona's gayest area, and yeah, that was very nice having a little stroll down Burr Alley, so I've still got it.
Just noticing those little side eyes every now and then.
Absolutely. The confidence thing, though, when you mentioned about the mentor that you had, I'm very conscious of this in my current role with like graduate entry level people doing kind of the safety roles that I do, and I'm very much kind of scoop them under my wing and gently push them out of their comfort zone. And I had a girl in my team only a couple of weeks ago. I trained her up to start delivering safety training courses to our customers, and she'd never really presented. She's English isn't her first language. And she was messaging me on Skype during the session saying, oh my God, I'm running out of material. It's going to end really soon. I don't think they're enjoying it. And she wasn't really confident at all. And then at the end of the session, one of the candidates just said, that was the best course I've ever been on. And that kind of endorsement and the confidence and the exhilaration that she felt. And she came to me afterwards and thanked me for pushing her to do that, because she would never have elected to do it because of the confidence issues. And it's a little bit like the Carol Kane quote that we had in Strange New Worlds, where she says, I just pretended to be somebody else until I accidentally became them. So, and I love that.
Oh yeah, my whole career, I reckon, is just based on a little bit of right place, right time luck. And often, after I sort of overcame some of my confidence issues, is I would often act as if though I was in the next role that I wanted to be in before I was actually in it. And then I would make the natural progression up into that. And it's not, isn't that nice when you get that experience though, when you realize that you have had an impact on someone else? I've had very similar situations where someone who I used to work with in my old city of Canberra had moved to Melbourne, and we caught up for a beer, and he actually asked if we could he said, I remember when we used to work together, you would do a little bit of that, kind of mentoring and coaching with me when we'd go out for coffee. And I'd be like, oh, I did? He's like, yeah, you're always giving me the best advice. I'd love if we could. I reckon I am where I am now because of the coaching and the confidence that you used to give me. Could we do that again unofficially? I'm like, sure. But it always gets amazing. I'm like, ooh, you want advice from me? I have something to offer. How amazing. I can inspire. And, that is when you kind of reflect on, what we used to be like. And you're like, wow, if I could go back to the me who was, absolutely, crapping his dacks about potentially doing a presentation room of like 10 people and say, oh, by the way, one day you're going to inspire people, and people are going to thank you for where you got them in their career. Like, yeah, imagine how much that could have changed things if I could tell old Dave that, or young Dave that.
And the fact you were inspiring your colleague there without even realizing you were doing it is great. You thought you were just going out and bitching about your co-workers.
Oh, look, it just goes to show that every word out of my mouth is absolute gold, Kelvin.
Wow.
Don't pause and hesitate on that.
You are inspirational, Davey. And together you provide the questions, I provide the answers. What a team we are on the old Trexperts. Right, well, now that we're all suitably confidence boosted, I thought it might be fun to reflect a little bit on the good old trope within Star Trek of encountering an alien probe. So it's something that's done more often than once, and it kind of often ends up causing a dilemma at best or a disaster at worst. So I thought it might be useful to debate a little bit. So, probes in Star Trek, friend or foe? What are you thinking, Davey? Any cases for the defense here?
Well, look, I mean, you can get a number of different sort of, friendly probes, but, usually they're friendly probes in disguise, especially like the mind kind of probes that we saw in this episode. And even, sort of, inner lighty kind of probes, I don't know if is that a mind probe? Was it being friendly? I mean, 25 years of lifetime shared and then ripped away in a moment. No, that one wasn't friendly. I'm going to remove that one from my debate. I guess, I was looking through the different types of probes you could have. We had medical probes as well. And I'm actually struggling to remember a medical probe. When was there ever a medical probe?
Oh, I mean, they come in all different shapes and sizes. I think that a medical probe I remember was the Voyager episode where they couldn't see the aliens experimenting on them, and Seven got probed in the head in the turbo lift by one of those. That
wasn't friendly at all.
Well, she didn't feel it, so. But even if you talk about things like mind melds as a probe, they can be very cathartic. They're almost used psychologically as therapy, almost like guided meditation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm, picturing probes as being like a physical machine or something that's been created by a biological organism and sent out. And look, to me, I think, yes, probes can 100% be friendly. I just wish that more probes just came with much clearer intentions. Like, I am here to make first contact. I am here to talk to the whales.
Yeah.
What?
And I guess you've got the example of, probes as well. They can safeguard lives by, if you send a probe into a dangerous nebula instead of an away team on a shuttlecraft, then you'll get your telemetry and maybe people won't die. So, I suppose they can be useful.
Yeah, and if you want, you can also carry a half Klingon ambassador across the quadrant in one of them too. Like, there's that. Oh no, that was a photon tube, wasn't it?
Do you know what? I'm struggling to remember. So you finally asked a question that I can't answer. Was that a torpedo casing or was it a probe? I'm going to have to go back and watch the Emissary now to see how Kalar arrived onto the Enterprise D. But yeah, that's something for me to do a little bit later. I think the exciting side of the conversation might just be a quick recap and reflection on some of the more infamous probes that we've had within Star Trek. So the most famous one, in my opinion, would be the cetacean probe in Star Trek 4, the one with the whales. I got a massive reaction online. There was this meme going around of name a villain that you shouldn't like, but you do like. And I put a picture of the cetacean probe. And everybody came for me on the socials saying, the probe was not a villain. I was like, well, it kind of was. It was the main antagonist in the film. So do you think the cetacean probe was a baddie? What's your opinion on that one, David?
Oh, well, I mean, it's another Star Trek kind of cliche or trope, isn't it? It's, the misunderstood alien or the misunderstood alien device, what we see as being potentially destructive or aggressive behavior is just its way of talking. We've had it recently in Strange New Worlds, and we saw it with the Sphere in Discovery. It's hard to draw a line, right? And the probes play that role of the challenging human understanding of behavior and not judging a book by its cover. It's like, this thing is tearing my planet apart, but maybe I'm just not understanding it. Like, you are right. Like, it's calling it an enemy is probably not completely accurate. But it was the antagonist. It's hard to say. People probably died. Like,
and the shout out to Madge Sinclair and the crew of the Saratoga at the beginning of the film. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know what happened to the Yorktown and its solar sail. They all probably went to Sto-Vo-Kor. Who knows? But the thing with probes is as well, it's like, for God's sake, don't scan them. It's when you scan them, something awful happens. You have the Catan probe from the Inner Light. You have the Iconium probe in Contagion, and they'll all give you some kind of computer virus, or it'll affect a member of the team. So, yeah, alien probes, they kind of sneak up on you. Even the probe in Force of Nature, where it disrupts all of kind of subspace and you can't go to warp, the little environmental episode attempt there. So these are all on my list of dangerous probes, and I think they even called Ilea a probe in the motion picture when she came back with a little red Adam's apple light bulb. So yeah, alien probes, not for me. I would run the other way.
Yeah, I forgot that Ilea was a probe. She was a fun probe, though. Like, she was, you'd go to a bottomless brunch with that probe.
Yeah, I'd sink a few carbon vessels.
Dear, you're not in Sitges anymore.
Right, well, without further ado on that one, before the mind boggles, let's have a look at some assimilations and regenerations for the episode. So, a reminder for the listeners: assimilations are things we liked about this episode and can stay, and a regeneration, maybe not so much. Maybe it was a little bit rubbish or needs a little bit of a zhuzh to become acceptable. So, let's start off, Davey. Have you got any assimilations you want to throw out there?
Yeah, I actually had a couple for this. So I loved Geordie's comment in the beginning when they're in the shuttlecraft and Barclay's like thanking him for bringing him, and he's like, this is the interesting stuff, you deserve this, and he points to the probe. He's like, this is why I joined Starfleet. That's like proper Roddenberry vision of who these people are and who we are in the future. We're here to do fascinating exploratory things and find the unknown. It's just, I don't know, I just love that little line. It was really cute.
Yeah, how nice. I'm going to mirror that one with another kind of wholesome assimilation. Troy's encouragement of Reg at the very top of the episode, it just seemed very, very genuine and lovely. And like what I was saying earlier about the way you encourage a junior member of the workplace for stepping out of their comfort zone, most of the kind of Troy and Barclay interactions are a little bit cringe, and this one just seemed really nice and appropriate. And I think it was probably Marina's delivery of those lines there. So shout out to Marina. What else have you got?
I had I didn't realize that this was, and because I'd skipped this episode so much that this was the first time we saw Jim Norton as Hollow Einstein, who would later play him again in Descent Part 1 during Data's Great Minds of History poker game. I think the reason why I've put this in here as an assimilation as a long-time Star Trek fan, I had never noticed that Hollow Einstein was in this episode before until I watched it to do this podcast.
I bet that actor is so typecast. I bet they have him playing Albert Einstein on like every show. I might go to his IMDb page and just have a look through.
Yeah, I mean, I did have to go and Google him to find out what his actual name was.
There was a background character in engineering. It was the female engineer who was Lieutenant Linda Larson. And she stands out for me in this episode because when I was a teenager, I used to play the Decipher Star Trek customizable card game. And when you'd buy a little expansion pack, again, my weird memory for these things, like the first 4 cards in the pack were always the rare ones and the collectibles, and the rest were all just the common guffs that you have multiple copies of. And poor Linda Larson, she was one of the 10 a penny kind of cards. So you'd always go, oh no, not another Linda Larson. I've already got this one. So just like it really conjured up lots of pleasant memories of being a teenager, opening those packets of cards and seeing Linda Larson. So it was nice to actually see her animated and doing something.
I loved collecting those cards, but I had no idea how to play the actual game.
Oh, did you have any of your friends who played it?
I only had one other friend growing up who liked Star Trek. I didn't really kind of come across other Star Trek loving friends until I was an adult. And yeah, and this was that friend that my parents made me hang out with because my parents were friends with his parents. And I swear he was making the rules up because I always seem to lose very unfairly. So whilst I did actually play the game, who knows if I was actually playing it the way it was meant to be played.
Oh, that's such a shame. I used to, my old friend, shout out to Gary and Anthony. We used to play this, and it was good because one could be Klingon, one could be Romulan, one could be Federation. So we used to play it often, and there was like a little comic book store that used to do like Saturday morning. Everyone would turn up and play. So I got to play with a lot of people this game. So I love this little game. But I got a little bit too old for it when all the expansion sets started coming out for Mirror Universe and DS9. So I'm an OG card game one, just the originals. Have you got any other assimilations for this episode, Davey?
Look, I've got two more. I noticed, and even because I watched the episode twice, and both times I noticed that when they were being propelled across the galaxy, that the effect was kind of motion picture wormhole-like, believe that phaser order kind of stuff. And just the way the camera moved, the way they were talking. In fact, the first time I watched it for the podcast, I went into the kitchen to get a drink, and that scene happened, and I had to turn around because I thought maybe my internet connection was buffering. and the audio was cutting out, but I'm like, oh no, they're just hurtling across the galaxy, and that's what happens when you hurtle across the galaxy.
I never thought of that because there was the scenes when Discovery went to the future were very much a homage to the motion picture kind of wormhole effect, and I never actually realized that the Nth Degree was to a lesser extent doing the same thing here. I seem to just remember almost like the exterior shots of the Enterprise being thrown out. It never really resonated in my mind what was happening to the characters. Love it. And what's your final one? This is an interesting one.
Oh, look, just how veiny the probe is. I can't help but laugh at my own joke. But no, just that. Yeah, and the probes of this era all seem to have this same kind of cracked, veiny, blue light kind of vision on them. Even the blue ball that came out at the bottom of the probe in Star Trek 4 had that kind of view on it. But this was a particularly veiny probe, and I was like, no, I don't mind this probe design. Don't know why, I just don't mind it.
I wonder why a phallic-shaped veiny device has resonated a touch with you there.
Oh, it was phallic-shaped, was it? I didn't even notice.
Well, speaking of inappropriate, my final assimilation is there's just a very throwaway scene where you have the main cast in the captain's ready room, and you've got Troy and Crusher sat beside each other on the couch. And the stills from that scene have been replicated so many times for the infamous Blazing Bev memes that are going around the internet. So if anyone's struggling to remember where does this from, it's from the Nth Degree, from this episode where they're sat beside each other.
Oh, Blaze and Bev. Can I tell you that because Christos used to post those memes so often, I thought he was making them. And then I heard him refer to the fact that he doesn't know who made them recently on another podcast. I used to think, oh, my friend Christos invented Blaze and Bev.
No, I don't think he can take credit for it, but he's very much an ambassador for the promotion of.
He's a strong advocate for Bev's medical marijuana use, yes.
So, if that's what we're loving about this episode, what about some of the regenerations? Is there anything that you'd toss back at the writers saying must try harder?
Look, I think I may have mentioned this a little earlier, but I think this is one of the most problematic forms of First Contact. When I was watching it and I saw that everyone on the Enterprise was just like, oh, what a wonderful coincidence. We thought that we were hurtling towards our deaths, and instead we got to meet this quirky giant head. Surely not everyone would react that way. Surely many races would not react that way. And so I'm asking myself, I'm like, have they ever come across a situation where, what if they did that to the Klingons? What if they did that to the Borg? Like, what situation what are they called again? The Safarians? They're an internet browser.
Safarians.
Safarians. whatever they are. Like, yeah, I don't know. And for that to have been a tried and true method for them that they've been using for millennia, apparently, I'm just sort of like, well, they clearly fear nothing, because I guess at the end of the day, they can just be like, oh, you're aggressive and awful, then we'll just hurdle you right back where you came from and you'll have no idea how to get back here.
Yeah, I've just got images now of a Borg drone trying to assimilate that big head.
He's like, yes, variants, yes.
Oh, amazing. My first regeneration, it's a set dressing one, I'm afraid. Look, I know money was tight, but come on, that theatre, it was 10 forward. You had the lights at the side, you had the infamous doors. There was no disguising what room that was. So when they do this a lot with the conference room as well, they just kind of take the table away and say, oh, it's chamber 14. We know these things. We've got the blueprints.
Yeah. Exactly. I can see the same imperfections in the set, no matter how you redress it. Which is a slight regeneration I have, which I haven't listed, is that on my giant OLED TV, the remasters of TNG make it really easy for me to see the imperfections in the sets. So much so that when I was watching this episode, I could actually see dust gathered on the plexiglass over the front of the helm when they did a close-up of it at one time. I was just like, I wanted to get the microfiber cloth out and give it a wipe.
Wow. And so that begs the question of, if it was the ops, does Data leave fingerprints?
Doesn't Android have fingerprints? That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, I think that was mentioned in dialogue in one episode. I'm going to have to go back through the memory now and remember that, but I won't do it here.
Naked Now.
It was. Yes.
Yeah. I have fingerprints. Humans have fingerprints.
Well done, Davey. Well done. Okay. I've mentioned it before, but yeah, something that really just makes me like, horrible gip is the way Reg comes on to Troy when he's got this confidence about him. It's stomach-churningly awful. I'm really very sorry to Dwight Schultz. It's also really bad acting. There's nothing. I can't look at it when it's happening. Must try harder. Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's the sort of thing that would get you kicked out of a pub. Like, if you know what I mean, it is the sleaziest, like, skin crawling thing you've ever come across. It's like, get away from me, you old pervert.
Oh, I love it. What other regenerations have you got, Davey?
Okay, so this really got to me. Is this really the default template that the holodeck has for a workstation chair? So when he decides the computer's too slow and he makes his little mind integrating machine with the holodeck, he runs in and he goes, workstation chair, and it creates this awful looking bulky thing that looks like something that you'd buy for free on Facebook Marketplace. And probably of someone who's still going to try and scam you out of $5 when you get there, even though it's advertised for free. I'm just like, why?
I love it.
It's like, workstation chair. This is what I'm going to create.
I also love that it was so like, not iconic, but it was like really. It wasn't generic. It was really specific in its design. Now, clearly, that's just what they had lying around as a prop. But it always reminds me of in Schisms as well, when they're on the holodeck and they're trying to recreate what the aliens looks like. And they say, make a table, give it an incline. Now make this a metal table. And it just became this most really ornate metal table. It's like, that's no way that's a standard issue table. So when the holodeck does these kind of things without asking for them to be specifics in what they want, I think it is really just someone having a quick look in the props department of what can we use.
Yeah, it's like when I ask my Google speaker to play Sam Smith and it some reason starts playing Cyndi Lauper. It just gets it wrong sometimes.
Ooh, or gets it very right. I'm much more of a Cyndi Lauper fan than I am Sam Smith.
Fair enough.
Okay, shall we head over and look at a little bit of trivia for the episode here?
Let's do it.
Special shout out for certainly for Amy and Mark, just to point out that this was a Joe Minosky episode, he's a much loved TNG writer by the team here at All Good Things, having come up with some of the best scripts in TNG. So I know Amy and or Mark would give me a big slap on the wrist if I didn't give him the writing credit here.
Oh, they're such big fans. And look, it was only the second outing yawn for Reg Barclay after his season 3 debut in Hollow Pursuits. And how many more times did we see him in TNG? It was only like two more times when he had the transportophobia, and then again when he got turned into a lizard or a spider or whatever the hell it was.
I think he had 2 episodes in season 6. He wasn't in season 5 like Loaxana. 2 for season 6 and 1 for season 7. We also see the Argus array here for the very first time. We saw it again in Parallels, but also interestingly, it became a kind of a focal point on kind of galactic maps, and it was seen in Strange New Worlds, Children of Comet, and Picard, Maps and Legends, and Disengage, which means for in-universe times, it's been operational for more than 150 years. So I know they went there to fix it, and it's easily hacked by the Cardassians, but they definitely built it to last.
They did. And you mentioned the customizable card game before, and I totally forgot that dime a dozen useless cards in the customizable card game. The Argus array was one of them. Oh my! I had so many Argus arrays.
There was an old game. It was actually on the Nintendo Wii. That's how far back I'm going. And it was called Star Trek Conquest. And I used to love this game. It was a little bit like chess, I guess. It was a strategy game. But the Argus array was also in that game. And if you occupied the sector where you get the Argus array, it meant that you got visibility for 3 more sectors. So it was, as a strategic point, every player used to race to battle and win the sector that had the Argus array. So it had a lot of gameplay significance in that game. And I used to love that game. I used to spend hours playing it, only against the AI. It wasn't futuristic enough to kind of have multiplayer ability over the internet. But yeah, that's what springs to mind when I think of the Argus array, good old Star Trek Conquest.
I remember that game, and I can imagine that if you were taking over the Argus array in that game, then you would have been located in the Gamma Trianguli star system, which is where the Argus array is located, which, funnily enough, was the location of the Children of Val from the TOS episode The Apple, which I believe you covered here on All Good Things only about 2 weeks ago. Pure coincidence? I think not.
It actually is pure coincidence. Yeah, really, really random when we were doing our research for this episode, and I noticed the call out to the sector. I was like, Gamma Trianguli, that was the sector from The Apple. So I love the Star Trek galaxy. I love when they randomly name a star system or a sector and something has previously happened in a different episode in the franchise and it immediately resonates. I just love that is the universe that has been built and that kind of Star Trek operates in. It's just so rich when that happens.
It feels real, doesn't it? That's one of the things we love about it.
Speaking of feeling more real, Gates McFadden is said to have pleaded with the writers to round out Beverly Crusher by giving her some hobbies and interests. So we see dancing in Data's Day, and now we see Beverly as a thespian with her little theatre workshops here. So both in the same series, but had kind of repeat references throughout the rest of TNG's run for Beverly Crusher.
Yes, and very in line with her real world, I mean, not even hobbies, like, you know, theater and dancing and all that kind of stuff, very much, and choreography, her profession. In fact, probably more so than acting.
Yeah, a case of, art mirroring reality there. Right, okay, let us have an important message from the network.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, and Kelvin. Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. If you're lost in the Delta Quadrant, check out The Captain's Couch, a Star Trek Voyager podcast hosted by Jeremiah sitting on Janeway's Ready Room couch. Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed but should definitely check out, hosted by Mark, Matt, and Laz. Beam Aboard the Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Amy, Joe, Rhea, and Kevin. History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissie and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissie and Thad. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Union Federation, covering all things Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Star Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Spill the Tea with What's the Tea, Bev, a Trek current events and fan interview show hosted by Christos. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind, BQN's monthly roundtable discussion with hosts and listeners. It's Green, a cornucopia of topics hosted by Mark, and Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek, hosted by Amy. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
I will assimilate the audio, Amy Nelson. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's like she's in the room with us.
Well, always gives me goosebumps, that.
So, final thoughts for the Nth Degree, Davey. Is it still a skipper, or are you going to include it when you next do a full season 4 rewatch?
Oh, yeah, nah. It's just not a standout for me. It's not a favorite.
It didn't win you over. Oh no, we've failed. So if there is a Trexperts quiz, TNG season 4 reason for the season, there's not going to be any Nth Degree questions because you can't be bothered to go back to it to do the research.
Maybe I'll force myself by doing a whole quiz just about the episode, and nothing else. I'm sure I can stretch something out that far. I have to force myself to like it.
Well, hopefully your two competitors in that episode don't skip the episode. Otherwise, that may rather a low-scoring quiz round.
Yeah. How to win friends and influence people.
Yeah, send a veiny alien probe.
What about yourself?
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's far from the best, but there are a few moments. I get the Argus Array. I do have a soft spot for it. I don't dislike Reg Barclay. He's just more. He makes me eye roll at a lot of things as well. And I think it's just we all love Starfleet so much. It would be our dream job. So to have someone who's there almost and doesn't want to be, it's like, what's wrong with you? So yeah, Barclay episodes aren't my favorite, but obviously he gave us Pathfinder in Voyager, which is one of my favorite ever episodes of Star Trek, so he gets a pass based on that alone. But for this episode, yeah, not TNG at its best, but I did have a pleasant rewatch. So very middle of the road, probably a 4 out of 10, I would say, on my unofficial rankings there.
Yeah, look, a 4 is sensible, and as I selected this episode on Paramount Plus, not sponsored, I realized that this just comes at a time in Star Trek where the episodes were actually all really good. Like that sort of season 3 to season 5 run. And I was like looking at all the episodes around it. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. Because then I get to watch one of my favorite Q episodes immediately after it if I don't hit stop. So there was that, I guess.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And when people are talking at the moment about Strange New Worlds having this kind of diversity in episodes going from comedy to horror, it's like, well, TNG used to do that all the time. It used to go from like a comedy romp episode to like heavy science fiction or time travel. So yeah, we're back to the golden age. So where are we going next week, Davey? What are we chatting about?
Well, I won't be there, but I believe that next week, and it's amazing that I know this, that it'll be Genetic Engineering Part 3. I believe the All Good Things team will be diving into the Deep Space Nine episode Statistical Probabilities. I'm trying to remember which episode that is.
It's the one where the other augments come to Deep Space Nine and they're all a little bit problematic.
That's right. I actually had a question about that in the quiz last week. I should know that.
Yes, you should. And don't tell the listeners that you won't be here next week. You might have just cost us a few listeners there. they might love you so much that they think you're here to stay.
I'm literally on 50 other podcasts at the moment, so just come and find me. You can hear me anywhere.
I know your time is precious, so thank you for this week, Davey.
Any time, All Good Things is one of my faves, and I will join you, Mark, Amy, Christos, whoever wants me to come and join them here on All Good Things. It's always a good time.
Bless you. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, to continue our discussion there. You can also tweet your thoughts at AllGoodPod. Please follow the network on Twitter and Instagram at BQN Podcasts. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching the master feed. So, Davey, where can people find you when you're not scanning for veiny phallic-shaped probes?
Oh, you took my one. So where you can find me is my flagship, my first podcast here on the BQN is the Trexperts Quiz, which is presented in audio format wherever you get your podcasts from, and we also present as a YouTube show by searching for the Trexperts Quiz. Find it on all the socials as well. My other show as well is a YouTube program called The Bargain Bin Gamer, spelt Gaymer, where I play the cheapest and worst video games out there so that you don't have to. And I've recently started practicing my creative writing and blogging and doing short stories and all sorts of fun stuff on davyWrites.com. So check that out. And Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not chugging a few carbon units?
Wow, after your kind of itinerary of skills and locations, mine's a bit boring. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, or Threads at Kelvin's Timeline, or you can just find me on the good old Facebook group, the BQN Collective, where I will be commenting on all of your funny little memes that everybody posts. Please hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a star rating and written review. That will help others to find the show. You can also follow the entire network's podcast by searching for our master feed.
At this time, we would like to thank our associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and Tim Cooper. A special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
If you'd like to help us keep all our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. We'll add you to the Hive Mind Facebook group so you can enjoy It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and other network perks. With a monthly subscription of $5 or more, you can join our meetings of the Hive Mind, a roundtable discussion, on the second Saturday of each month. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages. Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us as we search out
all good things.